My name is Harry. I'm from a little town in the southeast called Hastings, and I'm a musician. So I got into it from actually a friend of mine when we were about 12 years old, said to me he wanted to be a music producer. And I laughed at him, thinking it was kind of funny and unrealistic. And then I thought, you know what, why can't I give this a go? And I started making beats in my bedroom from 13 years old, and it just kind of evolved from there, really. So I do what I do, to be honest, because it's for myself, really, more than anything. I don't have a better pastime. It's the only thing that's ever really resonated with me and been able to evoke emotion in a way that I've never really had it before, if that makes any sense. I mean, in terms of a message, it's more kind of showing people what not to do. Almost in terms of like an anti-hero, where it's like this person is the embodiment of everything that's wrong with the world and wrong with people in general. So it's not a character that I think you should aspire to be like. It's somebody that you should use as a guideline to not be like. Well, the insight into my background, really, I didn't have the best upbringing. And from a very young age, music was really the only kind of way I had to deal with. It was the only thing where it's people, I understood that other people felt the same way, and I wasn't the only person. And it wasn't just me sat there alone. As long as I had my headphones in my room and some other guy was talking fucking words over some random instrumental, then it kind of just resonated with me. Honestly, my ultimate goal and ambition is just to make a career out of this. And I don't necessarily desire to be famous. I think that a lot of people do, but it's not something I specifically want. But that being said, I'd like to just be able to make a comfortable living off of what I love doing. I mean, I believe that I can take this very, very far. And without seeming cocky or braggadocious, I just don't feel like there's many people my age who possess the skill and the ability that I do. Personality wise, I mean, the music is ultimately just an exaggerated version of myself and things I've been through and things I've done. So it's sort of just taking certain aspects of my life and then trading it out for something that might be a little bit more dramatic, that just fits the story a little bit better. But ultimately, it does come from experiences and stuff I've done. Three words that define me: um, misanthropic, angry, and blasé. Yes, I read. In 5 years, I see myself hopefully doing big, big shows and touring, not even England, just the world, and just seeing sort of where music can take me in general. So I don't really have much of a musical background in terms of family. My father always played guitar and stuff like that. In terms of hip hop, it was purely me discovering it myself, and it just finding something that I just completely from like I remember the first hip hop song I ever heard. I was 8 years old and I had like my mum's old iPod, put it on shuffle, and Eminem "I'm Not Afraid" came on, and as like an 8 year old, it's like, wow, like this is crazy, and then you just start going down this little rabbit hole of what these guys kind of just like saying how they feel over these 90 BPM beats, and just like as a child, it's fucking mesmerizing. It's crazy. So I mean, I'm not necessarily influenced by just hip hop. When I was 15, I found a genre of music called folk punk, and it was bands like Andrew Jackson Jihad, Wingnut Dishwashers Union, Johnny Hobo and the Freight Trains. Specifically, a man called who goes by Pat the Bunny. It was the first time that music had ever kind of been broken down in a way where it's just three chords and some sweaty 19-year-old screaming how they feel. That's not even in key of a fucking, you can't even, they're not even singing in key, they're just screaming how they feel. And I think it's taken that 3 year break from hip hop, managed to let me come back into hip hop with just a fresh perspective on it and an ability to articulate how I feel better rather than making it more about kind of trying to be a lyrical miracle, sort of in spiritual individual sort of thing. Like, it managed to actually make me just learn how to make music as a whole. If I ever became the person that I always looked up to somebody else, I think it would just be such an overwhelming responsibility on my shoulders, because I didn't even think I'd be like alive now, let alone how far I am in music. And I wake up every day still in fucking disbelief that even like I'm here right now doing this. It's crazy to me. Like a 15-year-old Harry sat in his bedroom recording in his closet, never thought he'd get this far. And the fact I am here, this is more than everything I ever wanted. And the fact that it can go further than that is just absolutely crazy to me. I did have a very good teenagehood, but in certain ways, when I got to 15, I took a very high dose of acid, and it messed my head up for a couple of, it's still suffering the effects of it, to be honest. And I couldn't leave my bedroom for 2 years. I stayed inside from the ages of 15 to 17. I could only leave to go to the shops, and that even in itself was an absolute challenge, shaking, pissing with pools of sweat. And it was just this irrational fear. It's called agoraphobia. It's an irrational fear of going outside. So I just assumed by now I would have worked up the nerve to kill myself. And I think there's been many attempts, to be honest with it, but I think they've not worked for a reason. And now it's weird. This music stuff's provided me a light. I never used to have a light at the end of the tunnel, and now I kind of have a reason to keep going. There's no wanting to die anymore. It's crazy what music has done for me. There are thousands of people who feel the same my age, even younger than me, and I think that the problem is people, one, they can't articulate it properly, and two, if you don't have a supportive network around you, it's very, very hard to open up about things like that. But I mean, it's 2024 and we do live in a lot more of an accepting world, but there still are those people who know that mental health carries a stigma. And if you open up to somebody and tell them how you actually feel, there is always that chance that they're going to think you're fucking crazy. And it's not about that. It's about that if that person thinks you're fucking crazy, then they're not the person for you, and you kind of just have to accept that and move on. Oh, where do I get my inspiration from? It's a very good question. So it all started off, or didn't all start off, but a primarily influence is a group from back in the day called Odd Future, who was like, a lot of them are quite big now and doing bits, but I'm talking like back when, oh God, I can't even remember the year, but this was, I was like quite young. I was like 3-4 years late to it anyway, because I'm only 21 and that stuff was like 2012. So I found it in like 2014, 2015, but it stems from people like Odd Future, a lot of like Blink-182, people like that. Like I don't really have a lot of, the only UK people I'd say that to me are the epitome of influence would be Louse the Cat and a guy called Languid Looms. I think that their lyricism is unmatched to anyone else, and their beat selection, like Louse the Cat's all self-produced, and if you haven't heard his stuff, it's fucking incredible. And it's like he dropped an album, it got really, really big, or not really big, but like underground, like cult classic almost. And then he just disappeared and no one's heard from him in 5 years. It's crazy. Oh, the creative process is a bit of a headache. So I don't like distributing, hence why it's taken me 1.5 years to release another song. Like I've got a backlog of music, man. Like I have so much stuff in like ready to come, but I don't like sitting down on the computer and filling out the forms and stuff like that. It kind of overwhelms me in a weird way. It's strange. But I think that the process mainly is, we're talking in terms of writing, I will, over the course of a week, just like, you can never sit down and go, oh, I'm going to write a song. It will never work. And if it does, it won't be a good song. So what you have to do is you take these moments that you have in your brain where you kind of think of just a phrase and you think, oh, that would sound really good in a bar. It's like, for example, someone the other day said to me, I put Viagra in my eyes just to look hard. And I was like, oh my fucking God, that sounds incredible. And then wrote it down. And it's just over the course of a week, you write down things you hear other people say, you write down things that you like read in books and stuff like that, or just words sort of thing, like reading a thesaurus or something and just coming up with the different ways to say stuff. Then over the course of a week, you'll find you'll have the opening for the first bar for a 16, and then you can just kind of backwards engineer it so it rhymes and then fits properly, and that way you don't have to cloud what you're saying and you can still get your point across without dressing it up and trying to make it sound like, I can't think of the word, but just trying to make it sound a bit better really. But it's kind of like just, I work backwards really. I write the punchline and then I'll think of the rhymes that could go before it, after it. And then it's different with making beats and stuff like that, but I would say writing is probably my favorite thing to do out of all of it. I like recording, but just ultimately I just like to write. I just like to sit in my room and get it down. I don't even use pen and paper, I use my phone. I think that art helps me more than anything helps me, because ultimately it reminds you that the way you're feeling, you're not the only one, and you're not alone, and you don't have to be either. And it's like you can sit alone, you can be technically alone, but if you've got this guy in your headphones telling you he feels the same way, you're not fucking alone, are you? You've got somebody there. And it's just that escape has been such an important part of my life, and I really don't think I'd still be here today if it wasn't for certain artists and people kind of just being like, oh my God, I've never heard anyone say that. And like, that's been in my brain for 5 years. I've never heard anyone say that out loud. And now someone said it out loud, I know for a fact it's not just me that feels that way. I mean, technically, I've never, I'll tell a lie actually. I got asked for a feature from a friend of mine called Grotty White for a massive posse cut that's going on his album. And that's the first time I've been asked for features in the past and stuff, but usually I hit people with a price. And I think people don't understand, I'm trying to make this my living. So it's not like, and recording for me costs money. I don't have a mic, I don't have a setup. For me, it costs £60 for 2 hours to go to a studio. And I usually record for free. So when someone asks me for a 16-bar verse and I say, well, yeah, for 100 quid, they don't realise that I'm literally paying myself £10 out of that £100. And people kind of think that, almost feel like they're entitled to it because they like your music. And they don't understand that it's the way that it's not like kind of like being a YouTuber where it's like a collaborative thing. This is kind of now, especially, the game's been monetized now, and it's like you're not going to escape the monetization, and you need to kind of join it really. And it's like, it's not sort of, people aren't really doing what they used to do and kind of linking up and just making joints together anymore. And if they are, it's because they're friends. It's not just like some random bloke who can shoot you a DM and then be like, yeah, let's make something. It's like, no, that costs money now. In the future, I mean, I have a few things in the work that don't actually have anything to do with music. I'm not going to talk about them because they're not completed yet, and I don't want it to just seem like some sort of pipe dream where I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I'd like to wait till I've done stuff to talk about it, but I'm kind of in the, I have about 6 or 7 songs that are ready to go now, and a full music video. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have a full catalogue of music out that people can listen to, so they don't just have to keep listening to the freestyles on Instagram or that one song that's on my SoundCloud. I feel like it was important for me to make this journey today because in any opportunity you get, especially in this landscape, it's such a, you shouldn't waste them. It's such a hard thing to get, especially when the older generation are giving you your flowers and trying to help you to do something. It's like, you shouldn't just neglect that. You should go and join them and be with it, because otherwise you're going to get fucking nowhere without other people and building friendships and connections and just knowing people. Because the UK hip hop scene, it's tiny. Like, everyone knows everyone, especially if you've been here for a few years now. And it's like, you will, and if you don't know everyone, you'll get to know everyone. And it's such a weird and surreal thing in a way. It's crazy. I think that we can change this by, to be honest, I think that a lot of people, it's such an oversaturated genre now, especially as of recently. And people, honestly, without me sounding like an arsehole, people need to go back and hit their books more before they start releasing stuff and going to cyphers. Because personally, I worked on this stuff for 9 years before, or about 7 years actually, so not 9, about 7 years before I even put anything out properly. And there are still like old SoundClouds of me from my 14-year-old self with absolutely god-awful songs that were recorded in my fucking closet, and they're horrible. But it's like, you don't need to release something just because you've made it. It's okay to just keep it for yourself. And I think that it's just such an oversaturated place now where everyone wants to rap and everyone thinks they can rap, and no one can take the criticism when you tell them that they can't rap either. And I think that's the massive problem that you have in this genre, is it's an ego thing. And that will ultimately be what tears it all apart, is everyone's fucking egos being absolutely massive. I mean, I don't think people should take me serious. I think people should ultimately draw what they want from what I'm doing. And that's ultimately, it's down to interpretation at the end of the day. I can be saying something and you may not construe it in the way I intended you to construe it, but that's the beauty of art. You will still be able to apply it and find meaning in a life to it, which I think is one of the most incredible things possible. People can find me lurking in random corners of cyphers and at random shows around the UK. You can also find me at soundcloud.com/Hazbeen and spotify.com/Hazbeen. I do have an Instagram as well. My Instagram is @somehasbeen. I have Twitter, but I don't use it. If you wanna reach me, I would say email me. That's in my Instagram thingy. I'm not too good with DMs, so I'm not being a dick when I don't reply to you.